were posting saying they couldn't hear us, so we wanted to.
Cliff, how long did it take you to kind of get back to the feeling that, you know, that you wanted, that you had? I mean, how long has it been since you've been in the car?
The last time I was in a late model stock car was this Thanksgiving race in 2015. So it had been quite a few years. We unloaded off of the truck with 30-lap Myrtle Beach scuff tires. And for those of you guys that follow late model stock racing, or any racing at Myrtle Beach Speedway for that matter, knows how abrasive that Myrtle Beach is. It's very abrasive, very abusive to the tires. So we were hopeful that the way we unloaded with those old tires, we could at least get a quick read on the car. And of course, I was, you know, a little rusty at first, so I was probably overcautious just on the driving style and how aggressive I was being with the car. And then once I started to come around, you know, I knew that we were kind of fighting tires, you know, car loose end, tight center, loose off. Made a couple changes, the car kind of responded, but we were still off on just pace overall lap time. And then we had one set of sticker tires that we wanted to do a mock qualifying run on. So we pretty much had to cancel that plan and put on the sticker set tires in race trim that we were in and keep working on the car. And we actually made a 27-line run, which is the longest of anybody on those tires, and actually felt pretty good about it. So that was encouraging. Obviously, it took me a little while to get back up to speed, but as I was working on myself, we kept working on the car, and eventually got to a point where we were pretty happy with it. Because I did not make a qualifying run, I'm going to be completely honest, I expected to qualify 15th, 18th maybe. So to qualify 7th the way we did was, obviously very encouraging. I was pretty happy when they got out smiling, kind of surprised that we went that fast. And then went on into the race.
So, for those that don't know, I think what you were saying earlier was 30 laps at Myrtle Beach is like 100 laps somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
Is that about right?
That's that's about right.
It tears them up pretty quickly, doesn't it? Okay.
It tears them up pretty quick, and just the way that it wears the tires. You know, not only is it abrasive, so they get a little bit of like graining or even like chunking, but it just wears them down so quickly. Yeah. So not only are you getting a bad wear pattern, you're also getting high content of wear. So they were not the best tires to make final race adjustments on for sure.
Yeah, I saw a picture. Somebody did a close-up picture of the track surface at that place, and it was amazing. It was. It looked like they hadn't paved that place in 50 years or something. I don't know. It's incredibly rough.
Yeah, which from the racer aspect, I think is really cool. Speaking of Myrtle Beach, I think is really cool because you have to know how to manage your tires and kind of strategize your race. Obviously, the setup's important, but obviously there's a lot in the driver's hands that you can do to kind of guarantee the longevity of your car. And even Southern Nationals getting a lot of character to it now. It's always been a really cool track, high bank, fast track. The repave, I think, was in, 06 or something like that. So it has 12 years on that surface now. So there's a little bit of cracks here and there, some bumps here and there. And even, with its relatively shorter lifespan, tire management and tire strategy still does come into play. So that was pretty cool to experience again, at Southern National.
So we can probably assume you did not go back into the shop on Monday strutting around saying, you know what, put me in that 48 car just once and let's see what I can do with it. You didn't go back gloating and all fuffy of yourself, did you?
No, not at all. I did go into the shop first thing Monday morning completely exhausted from the weekend. And it was cool that a lot of the guys that I know are in the shop and on our team came up just to ask about it. But I think for my professional career, I'm better off to stick to working on trying to make them fast, and I'll let our Hendrick pilots do their job.
Okay. It'd been fun to bring a trophy back in there and wave it around everybody. So, not only to you can add to the trophy collection.
Well, don't get me wrong. Now that would be a lot of fun for sure. But,
that'd be the only trophy they got this year, by the way.
And with a Ford, no less. Hello.
Yeah, right. That could have been tough.
Yeah, maybe it was a good thing he didn't bring a trophy in there. He might have got in trouble.
Yeah.
So if another, I mean, seriously speaking now, if the schedule ever allowed you to do another late model show, I mean, if Martinsville happened to be on a good weekend for you, or Langley happened to be on a good weekend, you'd jump back in it in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. And there's been some guys in late model racing that have kind of asked me similar questions. And, you know, I get made fun of a lot because guys are like, man, you know, on a couple off weekend or the weekend after Thanksgiving, why don't you just go, you know, take your wife go take her to Hawaii or go, you know, go take a vacation, go do something somewhere. I'm like, man, for good or bad, for better or worse, this is me. This is all I've known is racing, and have such a high passion for it that the answer to your question, Al, is yes, absolutely. And my wife and I have talked about it many times, and how we balance the fun that we have, you know, away from my career of racing. And now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of honey-do lists and plenty of things that we do to, you know, to take care of other hobbies and interests. But she still knows my passion for racing. So, Al, you'd have been proud of her. She was with me all weekend this weekend, helping keep the guys straight on schedule and timing, helping us with the car. She helped get my helmet earplugs in and out and everything squared away, radio checks, things like that. She was involved the whole time, so we had a great time.
Well, I hope you're paying her well.
Well,
Yeah, right.
with my love and affection, that's all I can do.
Oh yeah, you think that's enough, don't you?
Well, I'm keep my fingers crossed for now. We'll see what happens.
There you go.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to come back and run the Hamlin Showdown or something like that up at Langley, up here. So, because you got a few laps around this place.
Yeah, no doubt. And some guys have asked me about that. And isn't it normally on a Wednesday or a Thursday?
Usually on Thursday night, yeah.
Right. So that may be something that we could pull off. That's always such a great event every year. It's really cool to see. And obviously, it's always been on my list of a big race that I would love to compete in and run. So yeah, maybe in the next year or so, I'll try to get something put together and come out that way.
It'd be April. It was April again. I guess
Whatever
coming here.
Thursday is before Richmond, yeah.
Was it Thursday or Wednesday? I thought it was Wednesday.
Usually Thursday.
Was it Thursday?
I think it's Thursday.
Okay.
It was unnaturally cold that night. I remember that. I was sitting in the stands freezing my tender parts off.
Cliff, let me ask you one question, and then we will not discuss 2018 again. When you guys loaded up Sunday night at Homestead and y'all flew back home, were you kind of glad it was all over?
Without question.
Yeah.
There were so many challenges that we faced this year. We had a couple of personnel changes on our team with some mechanics. The challenges with the new Camaro body and just us being behind as a whole with Hendrick Motorsports, I think that showed. Not for lack of effort, because we had guys back at the shop and we had guys on the teams that were working pretty ridiculous hours in a good way, but trying to really make a difference. And when you get behind sometimes, and that's just the way it is. We all know how cyclical the sport can be.
Let's talk racing. We'll be with you in just a moment.
By the time we got to Homestead, by the time it was over, it was a little bit disappointing. Knowing our stats for the year weren't even close to what our expectations would have been. But knowing that, okay, we can put this behind us, we can breathe for a minute, regroup, and do our due diligence over the winter to make sure that 2019 doesn't go like that, you know.
Well, the one, if there is any good thing about it, is the fact that it wasn't just your Chevrolet team that struggled. It was all Chevrolets pretty much across the board. So it's not like everybody was winning races except the 48. It was that hardly anybody in a Chevrolet. I know Chase won a couple. Austin Dillon won one that he probably shouldn't have won.
Plate race anyway.
And that's it.
And that was about it, yeah.
For Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, kind of like I mentioned, once you're in the sport and, for a while and in this level, you really do see, and I'm not one to sit here and speak on advantages or disadvantages for different cars or teams or manufacturers, but all I would say is that we know the sport is very cyclical. When you're on top, you can't let that get to you in any kind of emotional capacity or whatever, so to speak. And likewise, when you're not on top, you can't let that get to you either, because everyone at the top level of the sport, all teams, work incredibly hard. By and large, Stuart Haas has great employees, Hendrick has great employees, Penske has great employees, Gibbs has great employees, and none of those employees are stupid or lacking in racing talent or ability. And when a team gets it figured out, they're going to go have a good year and ride that wave, and then somebody else can get it figured out, whether it's a new rules package or a new style of car, whatever it may be. So I know it's only a matter of time before Hendrick Motorsports is back on top. And, this year we just kind of had to ride through it, see what we're made of, and try to come back stronger.
All right, you'll be better next year.
That's right.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, we done with him?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we might as well let him go have
Thanks for having me,
fun.
guys.
Cliff, thanks for being so candid and honest. Sometimes we get people on here who don't want to say what everybody knows, but you have always been very generous with your time and very open and honest with your opinions. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Very kind of you.
Speaking with you guys, and be glad to come back anytime.
Give our best to your family and to your sister and your, mom and dad and everybody. And if you want to come up, run the Hamlin Showdown, we'll promote you. We'll make you a star.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Cliff, talk to you
Thanks
later.
a minute, man.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, we got Mianna Zentmeyer. How you doing tonight, Mianna?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're having fun because we get to talk racing.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't have fun at talking racing?
Exactly.
So I know these guys haven't met you or heard anything about you because I just unloaded them on you. Go ahead and give us a little background bio about how you got into racing and what you got going on.
Yeah, so I think as most people started racing, I started back in go-karting. My dad used to race motocross, and so we actually started karting as a family activity. And once we started in asphalt, I really started taking it as my own passion and doing very well. And so I got picked up by a team and raced nationally, and continued from there. Actually entered a few international kart races as well. And then I actually met Phil Giebler, who was Rookie of the Year in IndyCar in the past, who was go-karting at that time, but also was doing a test in cars. And so he gave me my first test in a Formula Ford 1600. So I did that. He suggested that we actually buy our own Formula Ford 1600 and just get as much training as possible as we could in cars. And so then we did that, and it was just a pure God thing, honestly, then. But I ran into my team, who I'm racing for right now, Blue Hole Racing, who actually used to work for Mario and Marco Andretti back in the 1900s and or the 90s and the 80s, and Newman Haas and all them back in the day. So it's just been a complete blessing. Right now I'm driving a 1996 Lola IndyCar with them, just training and getting a lot of practice on what it feels like to drive an IndyCar in all situations.
Well, you're going from a 1600cc little Ford four-cylinder engine to an IndyCar. Does it kind of kick you in the butt when you step on the gas a little bit?
Yes, very much so. I remember one of my very first test days, I actually moved from a Formula Ford 1600 to a Formula Mazda, so it helped that step a little bit, but not very much.
No, not that much.
I remember one of my first tests in the IndyCar. I was doing a track that was half oval, half road course. So there was a point where you needed to get up on the base side of it, and my rear tire kind of hit that, and 800 horsepower definitely kicks you in the booty, that's for sure.
It definitely got your attention there. So
Now,
Absolutely.
now you, if I remember correctly, you're out in what, the Denver area?
Very close. I'm in Colorado, but we're on the complete opposite side of the slope. So we're about 5 hours from Denver, but we're over closer to the Grand Junction area.
okay. You're on the snowy side of the mountains. Then I was stationed in Denver for about a year, and we didn't get a lot of snow. We didn't. Well, neither Christmas was a white Christmas. The year after I left, they got buried in snow. But you're on the western slope, so they get some snow over that way.
Yes, we actually have had a first snow, but it didn't stick, so it's not white at all yet. But we're hoping for a white Christmas this year, that's for sure.
I can't hear anything. Now, in a typical season, let's just say this year, where did you race? How often did you race? Give us some idea of the series that you're in.
Yes. Okay, so to give you a background kind of what's been going on in my life the last couple of years, it's been really up in the air. I haven't even shared that much on media until the last couple weeks, actually. But 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with inappropriate sinus tachycardia, and that is where my heart is basically malfunctioning. It's running way too fast. And this summer, it really got extremely bad, to the point where medication was just having reactions, and it was quite bad. I spent many nights in the hospital, just going to the hospital, going to the ER, and so it took me to the point of needing surgery on my heart this year. So unfortunately, I only got to race one race in June this year before I had to have heart surgery and take care of my health stuff. But we were able to do that in June, and it went very well. As far as the races that I can do in the series that I, run for the IndyCar, aside from this year, we do a lot of vintage racing. So that's like, SCCA has some stuff, but you also will go to Wisconsin. We actually got to go to COTA one year, and they just have like a whole bunch of these clubs for vintage racers, and a lot of the drivers are actually drivers who used to be professionals, and now they're just kind of, hanging out and driving. And some of them are other people who haven't made it and just have a lot of money. But it's been a blast to be able to do that and have the experience, just have good fun in that as well.
What's the plans for this coming season now?
This coming season, yes. It's up in the air, of course, as every driver says, it all depends on sponsorship.
Yep.
So this year, I would absolutely love to be able to at least get a test in an Indy Lights car to run for an Indy Lights team. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Until that point, until we can get funded for that, get picked up on that, we're going to be testing majorly. We're going to be hitting as many vintage races as possible from the IndyCar and just getting me as, driving available as I can.
Yeah, it's always that sponsorship deal, right?
Always is.
Yeah. The way it is anymore, you're working harder on that sometimes, it seems like, and you might be actually working on driving the car.
Yeah, it's insane. My crew chief, he was in the 80s and 90s, and it's just incredible talking to him about how different racing used to be back then to where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult landing a sponsor when your resume's a little bit thin? If you had been racing full time for 2 or 3 years and you had great results to show a potential sponsor, that's one thing. But when you've had issues like you've had, is it difficult to even get in the front door with a sponsor?
Yeah, well, a lot about marketing is momentum. So once you start getting sponsors, then more people hear about it, and that momentum just carries you through. With getting sponsors are easier and easier. And this year, when it's just completely come to a halt, it's kind of hard to pick up momentum again. However, with being where I am, I found that a lot of people like hearing that I'm in an actual IndyCar. I talk to companies, and they don't exactly fully understand what Indy Lights mean, or USF 2000s mean, or F4s. And so when you have the ability to tell potential sponsors, hey, I'm actually in an Indy car, can you help support me until we can make it to the Verizon IndyCar Series? That is an attractive thing to them.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where that would be
Yeah,
something to work through.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
as you started getting into racing, was there somebody that you looked up to as you were starting through the racing career you started with?
Yeah, so many people. I mean, that's such a hard thing to say because I was so young, you know, like I was 6 years old or something like that when I remember going to my first race. So, I mean, Danica Patrick was a huge hit when I was that young, and so it was like, oh, this is so fun, you know, woman racing. And, but I think as I've gone through racing, I've taken a lot from people that I know, you know, people who don't even race, like my dad, and just mentors in my life, my pastors, and just taken tidbits that they've said for life and relate it into racing. I think overall in racing, I really look up to Elio Castroneves just because I really admire his joy throughout the sport. No matter if it's a rainy day or if it's a sunny day for him, he's always happy, and I think that is super admirable in a driver. I mean, that's a lot of what racing is all about, is just getting out there and having fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's got a great personality that comes through TV really well.
Oh
so,
my God. Let me tell you.
You know.
Yes.
Got some wild stories about him too.
Absolutely.
Well, driving for Roger Penske, you'll create your own aura just by being one of Roger's guys, because
Yeah.
Roger doesn't hire anybody to race unless he's the full package.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
personality, the
Yeah.
charisma, the media savvy, the driving talent. Roger doesn't have many. He's had a few bums, but damn few. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's
he's never called me. So I guess maybe I'm not.
He's got
I
good
tell you,
judgment.
yeah, Roger Penske says he wants to talk to you. That's after you get up going through the hospital and get over the heart attack, you can a heck of a reputation. I was watching there. I had the thing about the winter, and Joey Logano was being interviewed, and standing behind Joey Logano, I'd passed out if I'd been Joey Logano's case. Look over. Roger Penske is talking to Edsel Ford II.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Christmas! Now I'm a Ford guy, okay? So you've got Edsel Ford, you know, the great grandfather of Henry, great grandson of Henry, and Roger Penske, who's got 500 wins and all of his racing teams put together. That's with a whole lot of power center right there, you know. And they were just chatting away like it was a picnic in somebody's backyard. So it was pretty amazing.
Is there a response coming for that one? Or?
I don't know.
We're still there?
Hey, Mariana, are you still with us?
Oh, hey, how are ya? Here
Oh,
we
okay.
are.
Sometimes we have a little issue with our volume sometimes. We want to check things out, so.
Hey, you live by technology and you die by it. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly, you know, that's it.
So how old are you?
I'm 22 right now.
22.
So
Okay.
she's just getting started.
Yeah.
You got plenty of time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Al, you might as well give her the young driver speech.
yeah.
Don't need to. She knows enough already. She don't need to hear anything from an old guy.
No, I can always get advice. Always.
Well, I've been watching this stuff for 50 years. My only advice would be always take off your sunglasses when you're doing interviews. Don't be wearing sunglasses while a reporter or a TV cameraman or a photographer is hovering by. And secondly, the best way to get the media on your side is to at least acknowledge them and say, well, thank you, Mr. So-and-so, or thank you, ma'am. That's a good question. I appreciate you coming by. Let the media people know that you appreciate their effort, because they're out there busting their ass in many cases trying to get stories, and they come back to people, and I'm one of them. I go back to people who make it enjoyable and interesting to talk to them. You know, and
Yeah.
no media person is going to go talk to a driver who's just a real jerk. I'll put it that way. And so,
Yeah.
just be decent to people. Be nice. Appreciate that they have a job to do. If you take off your sunglasses, look them in the eye, answer their questions, you'll be fine.
Well, thank you for that advice. It's just absolutely, I haven't actually heard that, so it's absolutely amazing to hear that kind of advice. Thank you. I'll take that with me.
Over in NASCAR, Carl Edwards is the only guy who ever did it exactly right. Carl Edwards would take off his sunglasses, stick them up on the top of his head, and look you in the eye and talk to you like he cared about what you were asking. And most of them just they leave their sunglasses on, they look over the media's shoulder, they don't want to be there, but they can't basically say, leave me alone. So they make the interview difficult, and you just don't go back to them again. So.
Well, it makes complete sense. I mean, why would you? I mean, it's
Right.
so hard to, stick with people who don't appreciate you.
Mianna, and Al's sitting here next to me is Al Pearce you're talking to. I'm going to blow his horn a little bit. He's been reporting this stuff since 1969, and he's in a couple of halls of fame. I used to read everything he wrote in the local paper here. He's working for Autoweek now, so he does some good stuff. So he's been out there. He's about half deaf now from being at the racetrack all these years.
I'm sorry?
See there?
Yeah, right.
About half deaf.
Where?
He heard that. You know, he said he heard that.
much. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Al, for being on here and, giving advice and just talking. It's so helpful for me.
I never trust anybody I'm talking to who leave their sunglasses on. I just can't get by the fact that they don't want to look me in the eye when they tell me, I don't know what I'm doing next season, or we should have taken 2 tires instead of 4. Unless I can see what their expression is, I don't believe any of them.
Now,
So,
you know what happens with Kyle Busch? I'm in eyeglasses, Mariana, and we sell the sunglasses that he wears, and so he got out of a car one day. The first thing he did was reach for the sunglasses, put them on. That was part of his deal.
Oh, I know.
To help peddle the sunglasses, to be honest with you. So, but I understand what Al's talking about. I wake on people all the time with eyeglasses, and I have people come in and walk in and got sunglasses on and talking to me about something. I never take them off, and that's just in a retail setting. So it's a little disconcerting. So.
Well, I have a whole stack of sunglasses. Like, I'm not even kidding. I have one for every outfit, probably. So
there you go.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go just throw them in the trash, never take them out.
Well, you want to have good eye protection, but like I said, when the interview comes, slip them off real fast for a few minutes there.
There you go.
Yes, ma'am.
and the other thing is, it looks stupid wearing sunglasses indoors at night. So,
Amen.
Yeah.
but they do it.
The
They
Blues
do
Brothers
it.
and Richard Petty, right?
Well, now, somebody, listen, I'm glad you brought that up.
That story you want to tell, there it is, Al.
Mianna, remember this. If somebody says to you, well, yeah, but Richard Petty wears sunglasses all the time, you tell them, okay, when you've won 200 races, and you've won 7 championships, and you're in every motorsports hall of fame on the planet, yes, you can wear sunglasses indoors. Until you do what Richard's done, take them off. There you go.
Exactly.
Remember that. That's good advice.
Yep.
Great advice.
Listen, we appreciate you calling in, and I hope things in Colorado are good for you during the off season, and I hope that things work out so that next season you can be in a car and creating that resume that you need to go to a sponsor and say, listen, look at what I did in 2019. Let's get together in 2020, and I'll help your company. So good luck to you. I hope things work out.
Thank you so much. I plan to do well. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
All right,
thank
Mianna.
you. Good
Thanks
night.
again. Have a good evening.
Have a good holiday,
Bye.
too.
All right. Happy
You
holiday.
too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, cool. I like getting to be able to talk to the young people as they're coming up and getting into stuff.
Well, we're not talking to young people all the time in this room.
Well, I'll
Must
just
be this
put a
guy over
mirror in
here.
We're
front of
going
each
about
of
as
you.
far from young right now as we.
Must be
What's
this
our
guy over
average
here.
age now? What's the average age in here now? That would be the question.
It's got to be the young guy over here, because
Yeah, are we through with call-ins now?
Yes, we are. We got Randy also over there. Randy, you could have been asking questions too, you know.
I like listening to Al.
So never mind.
I've learned a long time ago to listen to Al.
I had to get Al fired up a little bit. We got a couple going.
Anyway,
He jerked
Rodney
my head
Davis-
a couple times. So I don't.
Rodney's out here on the Facebook saying hi to you as well, Randy.
What's going on, Rodney?
Also, Ed Hines wanted to give a big shout out to Sam Bass to help Sam Bass find a kidney race. Car is finally finished, and they're going to have it at the NASCAR Hall of Fame Tuesday, the 4th at 10 a.m. And they're also going to have stocks for tots at 4 p.m. also.
Cool.
So there's some stuff coming in from out there.
Sam Bass, originally from Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, if I remember correctly.
Hopewell.
Hopewell. Okay, close.
A gas station down south of Virginia,
Yeah.
of Richmond rather.
All right, let me say one thing about David Pearson, because I have not been on the program
Okay.
in person since David passed. I was in Florence, South Carolina on my way to Homestead the night that I got the news that David had died. And about an hour later, I got a phone call from my boss at Autoweek who said, forget Homestead, or forget what you were going to do at Homestead. We want Autoweek to do a gigantic, first-class, big-time, obit story about David Pearson and his career. Being the smart ass that I am, I said, well, who's going to do it? He said, well, we know it's you, and I knew that too. I spent the whole week at Homestead. I stayed in Daytona Beach Tuesday night, Fort Lauderdale Wednesday night, was at Homestead the rest of the week. And I spent the whole weekend talking to people about David Pearson. I didn't care about the Homestead race. I didn't care who the 4 guys were. None of that was on my radar. It was all Pearson all the time.
We had the Wood Brothers right off the bat.
The Wood Brothers did not show up until Saturday,
Okay.
which put me in a serious bind.
Uh-oh.
Because they obviously were the people that I had to talk to the most. But anyway, I don't believe I talked to anybody who didn't say at some point during the conversation, you know, you really cannot compare drivers. You've got to compare drivers and cars and teams as a unit.
Right.
You can't say Pearson was better than Petty. You can't say Pearson was better than Tim Richmond. You can't say that Bobby Allison was better. You know, you can't do that. They've all got to be in the same car, and you can't do that because no 2 cars are identical. IROC used to say we have identically prepared cars, similarly prepared.
Yeah.
They couldn't be identical. You can't make 2 race cars that are identical.
They tried hard, but...
They do, and they do a pretty good job. So anyway, to make a long story short, everybody I talked to said, if Pearson wasn't the best of all time, he was in the top 2 or 3.
Sure.
Now, everybody said this. I asked Richard, and Richard said, all I can say is what I've been saying for years. The only people I could race against and beat at the height of my career were the people out there.
Sure.
You can't compare me to Jimmy Johnson. We never raced each other.
Right.
You really can't compare me to Jeff Gordon. We only raced each other one time.
Right.
So Richard said, all I can say is that Pearson was the best I ever raced against. Now, I don't know if he's the best I've ever seen, because he didn't race against Kyle Busch.
Sure.
So most of my weekend was spent doing David Pearson stuff, and Eddie and Lynn Wood were among the fortunate few who went to his funeral on Friday in Spartanburg. And so they showed up at the track Saturday, and there I go, heading down pit road. And we talked a long time about Pearson, and they basically said that the one thing that he did that no other driver has ever done was he never got excited.
Yeah.
He never got rattled. He never got he said even when he and Petty crashed at Daytona on the last lap, Pearson was talking to, while he was spinning around. Pearson was talking to us on the radio, and you would have thought he was at a grocery store shopping parking lot.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, where's Richard?" "Well, he's behind you." "All right, I think I'm okay. I'll be there in just a minute." And he said Pearson was just sounded like no big deal.
No,
Here we go.
Right. Yeah.
And he said today that he let off the gas at Daytona in July and snookered Richard into going around him.
Oh yeah.
He said Pearson never said a word, didn't tell us what he was going to do. He's going out there leading the race. Petty's drafted him. He said Pearson never said a word, just pulled over.
Yep.
And Petty went by him, and then Pearson. God, if you look at a replay of that, he had damn near a back straightaway lead on Petty at one point.
Yeah. Richard thought he blew the motor up or something like that.
Richard told me, and I wrote this in Autoweek, that was the only moment that he ever got angry at Pearson.
Yeah.
He said he could have wrecked us both.
Yeah.
He said even though later on I realized he knew what he was doing. Hell, I didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? The guy stops and I got around.
Run over the car. Yeah. Exactly.
And then Petty gave me the great quotes that I used to start my story for Autoweek. He said, "You know what? If David Pearson hung a right, going down the back stretch at Daytona, I'd hang a right with him." Because he figured, Petty said, "I figured if Pearson thought going through the fence was the best way to get to victory lane, by God, that must be the best way." And he said, "I'd have followed Pearson anywhere." So
I had a couple pictures I took at Langley in 1969 when they came, when the series, the Grand National back in those days, came to Langley, and I don't think I went to every race they did in Langley from 65 through 70 or 71. It's 1969, and they had gone to Beltsville, Maryland on Friday night, and the Boss 429 engine blew that engine up in that car, and they were swapping the engine out in one of the shops at the local Ford dealership. And I'm still trying to find the rest of those photographs, but I got a couple photographs hanging on the wall that I took down to scan. I had a problem with my computer, but I got David Pearson's autograph, and I can tell you that, of course, I wasn't a kid, but I was still, this is my hero. This is a big deal. This guy was, the guy I was cheering for, so I was pretty awestruck there. I got up there and I brought a piece of paper, a nice tablet to write on. People think it's faded, but it originally was yellow paper, so it was originally yellow, so not like it changed color, but he signed it for me, very quiet, and everything you've ever read about him. He is a very shy kind of guy, didn't quiet, that he didn't talk to the media a whole lot and all that stuff. Richard Petty was kind of the opposite as far as as he said before, the people in the stands, particularly back in those days, was what paying the freight, They ran for the prize money. It's different nowadays. But he was chatting with his crewmen and stuff like that. I think he was dyeing his hair. His hair was still black back in those days. I think he was probably dyeing it already back in '69. But a great picture. Him and Bobby Isaac ran first and second for many, many laps. And that's my picture I've got, a great picture I've got. He did win the race, and Bobby Isaac ran, I guess, I think fourth that night. So
there's a guy at this table whose family famously ran a Ford for years and years and years at Langley, and for a long time you had the number 21 lookalike car, didn't you?
Yeah.
Randy Akers, whom I met Randy Senior. Now this is Junior. In every way, this is Junior. I met Randy Akers Senior in 1969. He was working at Bowditch Ford. Was Dick Perdue also working at Bowditch? Dick Perdue was at Bowditch at the time. And an old gentleman, not old, he got old and he died, but that's okay. That's what gentlemen's supposed to do. There was a gentleman named Bob Shelton that introduced me to Randy and Dick Perdue and Randy Akers' family to kind of get me into knowing about racing a little bit. And and we talked about it before we went on the air. That's not it. That's,
Oh,
That's the pizza, that used to
it's
be
always been 21, but I
That's the
wish you had a
color
picture of the real,
the red and white car, yeah.
yeah.
Wait a minute. Go down again. Go scroll down again.
Go down.
Scroll down again. I saw something there. You started backing back up. There's one.
It's sort of on the right.
Dude.
That's Dale Lemons.
That's Dale, yeah.
Jim Peach, Texaco, and Phoebus. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Dragging along.
Anyway, Randy Akers, some of the best times we ever had were,
There's sort of like one, I ran
Yeah.
the Super Street car, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
we're driving on Friday night to Southside in Richmond, in the holler with the family and watching the racing at Richmond, at Southside, South Boston. Always car 21, always a Ford, I think.
Yeah,
And at one time it looked just like David Pearce and the Wood Brothers.
right. My dad had probably one of the winningest Fords on the East Coast there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
that one wouldn't do good.
No, that was a bad night.
2013. I want to forget about that night. Right?
Nah. don't forget
Randy,
that.
you grew up, I mean literally grew up in front of my eyes around the racetracks. There was never any question that you would not be a racer. I mean, you knew you would be at some point.
At some point, well, my dad told me no. You know, and then he
Yeah,
bought me
there's a
a,
picture of,
then he bought me a go-kart, and I'd run around the yard with a go-kart, and then I started racing go-karts, and I was at the old Blood Bowl, Bill's Blood Bowl on a Wednesday night racing flip, and Thursday morning I went to work, and Dale Lemons was driving for my dad then, and he had the car, the late model car, sitting in the corner, and wasn't going to run it, and he told me, he goes, you get off that go-kart, you can drive that car this Saturday. And needed a trailing arm, and he probably thought I wasn't going to get it fixed, but I fixed it and went racing. First late model race I ever ran was 400 laps. Back then there was no power steering. And but you know, from then on it's been, you know, racing. There's the old Pizza Hut car that
yeah.
Dick Perdue drove that
You remember the guy who put that deal together?
Bill Martin.
Jack Miranda.
Yeah, Jack Ronnie,
Yeah.
Bill Martin. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the first national sponsor ever signed on the East Coast back in those days. A lot of old pictures on there.
Virginia
There's Bernard
Raceway.
Paul.
I was out there years ago taking pictures.
Yeah.
30 years ago when I was out there. It was about that time right there in 81, 83.
Yeah, my dad, he took me to the racetrack in 1963. We walked through the gate at Langley. And the following day he went to work, or the following Monday he went to work and bought a 59 Ford from Bowdy's Ford and built the car, and he went racing.
There's Wyman Buell. I was telling people earlier.
A name I hadn't heard in a long time.
I was telling people earlier tonight when I first came in that I remember the night at Langley. I don't know. It was 50 years ago when Dick Perdue was driving one of your daddy's cars. You know, probably a limited sportsman back then, or
Yeah, limited sportsman.
hobby, or anyway, something.
Limited
Anyway,
sportsman.
and I keep thinking it was Taylor Grady, but I may be
Taylor.
wrong.
They ran side by side for
They
whole
ran.
race.
They ran side by side for 25 laps, and Randy Akers Sr., Randy's daddy, walked in a little bitty circle, just in the pits, just walking around in a circle. He had a big old stick. Started out with a big old stick and a knife, and Big Randy just kept whittling that old stick away. And I kept watching the race, and I kept watching Randy, and I kept watching the race, and I kept watching Randy. And finally, when Dick beat him by a half a fender or something, I went over and talked to Randy Sr. I said, "Man, you did a number on that stick, didn't you?" He said, "Well, yeah, I guess I did." I said, "Were you ever worried?" He said, "No, I wasn't worried." Hell, I was. He said, "Did you notice where they were every time they came across the line?" I said, "No, I was just watching them all around." He said, "I was watching nothing but the line, and every time they came by, Dick was leading him. And I figured if he can do it for 24 laps, he can do it for 25. So Randy wasn't worried a bit, but he worked on that stick till he got down to a toothpick.
Yeah, every race he'd always have a stick in that pocket knife in his hand. He'd whittle the whole night. Even when Dick Perdue was running, Billy Smith,
Yeah.
brother-in-law, he drove for him.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of drivers. Bernard Paul,
Oh yeah, from Pocosin. Yeah.
You got Jason Langley doing a shout out to you there, Randy.
Yeah, he said he tried to keep you in the rearview mirror back in the old Super Street days.
Yeah, sometimes that was hard to do back then. I was pretty quick. Getting old now, slowing down.
So he was having a little more problem than he liked to admit to about that. So, there you go.
Paul Radford. He was my mom's
Oh yeah.
second cousin.
Oh yeah.
Of course, none of the fans that are listening to the show can see what we're watching
Yeah.
here. You have to go to Randy Akers' page and check out all the pictures he's got to be able to see what we're looking at here.
There's that 64 years old Lester Gufton.
Yep. Buddy Hyatt there.
Oh yeah.
Been around there a long time. I watched that track.
1985. Yeah.
I grew up, I watched the track. I actually grew up with the racetrack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's 63, it was dirt, and I watched it, it was asphalted, and then all the improvements over the years, it's just, it's been a part of my life, like I say, since I was 6 years old, so.
Joe would love to see this one, Joe Falk.
I seen some pictures posted a couple weeks ago where Eddie Falk's late model cars, or Bush cars, I guess, are still sitting in the garage over there on Jefferson Avenue.
Yeah.
In Deer Park. Got two of them sitting
Yeah.
there.
Collector's item at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually, my first time with the Langley, it was called Dude Ranch.
Right.
And so all these years later when it reopened in 63, I still feel like I'm on the backstretch when I'm sitting in the stands. But that's been, God knows how many years that's been now. But yeah, went to...
We were talking about Charlie Doyle earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curtis Markham too, jeez.
Got a 17 Mustang there. Who that?
That's Billy Smith was driving that one.
Okay. 69 at that.
Yeah, we
I love that
cut
car.
up a bunch of Mustangs.
Oh,
Back
God.
when they first started the late model stock cars, when Joe Carver went from the late model sportsman to the late model stock cars, we cut up a bunch of darn Mustangs. That was that wreck there. That was at Pulaski.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we ran there. That's where my dad originally was born. Was in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where he started racing, and then he went into the military. And he left. When he came back home, he worked there for a little bit. My uncle talked him into coming up here for vacation, and we're still on vacation. We never
That's
been
Langley.
back.
Not sure where that one's at, but the other picture was in Langley for sure.
Yeah, that's Langley there
Yeah,
too.
Langley,
Yeah, it's
Way back in the day.
been out there many years.
Oh, yeah.
Al Pearce, you rode it many a mile. We went. I don't know. Did you go to Beltsville, Maryland, with us when we went?
Yeah.
Yeah. Went to a lot of racetracks all up and down the East Coast. Went to.
I'm not sure I was with y'all in the car or the hauler, but I was there
Right.
a night or two.
Yeah, we traveled up and down a whole lot.
Yeah, good old Beltsville, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Randy, you've heard Al's story at Dover, haven't you?
Dover.
I ain't gonna tell that story.
His first race, I think it was.
I'll tell it some other time, but not now. Randy, was it more? I guess I'm asking whether it was more fun then, or is it more fun now?
It was more fun then. Back then, racing back then, it was more of a. Everybody at the racetrack were, like family. It was all friends. If you had a problem, they would come help you.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's more in my division. I don't know about the others. I don't get out there and really get involved with the others. But in the Super Street division, it's more of they kind of a cutthroat kind of people.
Pretty serious.
Yeah, they get pretty serious. It's a lower division, but they're real serious about it.
They race hard.
Yeah, that's I've ran late models. I've ran grand stocks. I've been in the little mini trucks. I've practiced in those Pro 6. Sean Bluzo got in a Super Street car and ran a couple races this past year. And he told me, he goes, if I ever got out of that modified and quit racing and decided to come back, it would be a Super Street. He said that division is probably the best division as far as having to drive the car of any division out there. So you're always up on the wheel in the Super Street because you're on a 7-inch tire.
Yep.
So you got more motor than you got tires. So you got to drive the car a little little harder, a little different than you would anything else with a slick, you know, bigger tire and a slick. And
Why was your dad always a Ford 21 guy?
David Pearson.
Even before, but now when I met you guys in '69,
You got to, well,
it was before Pearson.
right. Well, what
But
it
the
was?
Wood brothers had been around for
Yeah, but they
at
had
that
seven,
point 10
you know,
years.
Yeah. Well, they when my dad
Well,
first
20
started
years, in
racing,
fact.
it was he had 007, and then they told him he couldn't have a 3-digit,
That's right.
so he went to 7.
Okay.
And then
That's
when
right.
he built the second car for Bernard Paul to drive,
Mm.
it was
It
14.
was 14.
Everything was at 7, so it was 7,
Right.
14, 21. So when we went to the Limited Sportsman, he had the 7 because his Pizza Hut car, it was always 7.
Right.
But when we went from Limited Sportsman to late model, Barry Strackman already, or somebody already, Redfoot had the 7.
Oh,
Late
okay.
model Sportsman.
Okay.
So
Redfoot, oh my
he
God.
kept my dad went to the 21 number. And he stayed with the 21 number, you know, until the late model stock car days.
Yeah.
And then Charlie Doyle had the 21 number, so we had
Oh, that's right.
to change numbers again. But yeah, everything always had to be 7, 14, 21.
But
That's-
for a long time, that car was painted up just like the Wood brothers
Right.
car.
Yeah. Well.
The candy apple red, and the whole, as much as he could
Right.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. He always every year if they changed the paint scheme, he'd get mad because he had to go buy more paint. If it stayed the same, he was all right. But yeah, the 21 was his favorite number because of the Wood brothers when they started running up. And a story about Pearson is, I remember when he came to Langley, was driving one of Servax's cars, you know, late model sportsman race.
Oh, they brought him in with a special deal. I
Right,
think.
Joe
Yeah.
Carver. And
Yeah,
I was working
oh.
the scoreboard, the flip numbers on the scoreboard in turn 3, and a rainstorm hit on the back straightaway, and Pearson went through the wall and landed out in the woods.
Yeah.
I come off of the scoreboard and ran out in the woods, and he's sitting there in the car with a cigarette in his mouth. And I'm like, "You all right?" He goes, "Man," he goes, "I thought I found a hole and ended up 150 feet out in the woods." Yeah, but Pearson was my favorite driver growing up. You know, and my dad, the Wood brothers, was always his favorite team, and that's pretty much where the 21 always came from. I still got a red and white car. I got 2 cars. The other car, Jimmy Atkins was driving it this past year toward the end of the season, but I put a 7 on that. And my plan is to try to get both cars painted up the blue and gold like I'm running now and put the 7. I've been wanting to go to Pizza Hut and see if Pizza Hut would put their name on the car and do it like a throwback Pizza Hut paint scheme on it for my dad. You know, I'm pretty sure, not positive, but I think this year is going to be the end of it. My last year. Getting old, 61. I'll be 61 years old in January. So.
God, you're just a kid.
Yeah, I don't want to be like Red Farmer, 85 years old, trying to get
Morgan
me out of
Shepherd.
his
How
car.
old is Morgan Shepherd now?
Yeah, he still says he's gonna run again next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got 2 cars. I've got a son. I've tried to get into it, but he don't want to do it. But I got a granddaughter that would love to do it.
There you go.
I don't know if I would sell them or do like Dad, keep them and be an owner and let somebody else drive them. You know, if they come up with sponsor money, let them foot the bill, and I'll just maintain them.
Glenn Wood told me, or told everybody, it wasn't just me. Glenn Wood said that they were in business. The Wood brothers are in business today because of what David Pearson did 30 years ago.
Right.
He said he had and Glenn said, remember now, we were pretty good before we got Pearson. We had KL and we won races with a lot of people. And he said, but when Pearson came, for those 8 or 9 years, maybe longer, whatever it was, he put us on the map.
Yeah.
And we're still there because of David Pearson. So
Yeah, anytime you see that 21 car, especially when it's painted to red and white, that's the first name that pops in your head is back in the Pearson days when he was driving.
And it didn't wreck a lot of cars either. And they were living off the prize money a buck in those days too a lot. So it wasn't like he had a tore up car.
Right.
You know.
Richard Childress called him, and Richard Childress is one of the few people that I found at Homestead who had actually raced against Pearson. Petty had, Bobby Allison had. I talked to both of them, talked to Childress. Childress said he I think his expression was, he held a pretty wheel. Meaning, he was a smooth, Childress said, he was the smoothest driver I ever saw. Ever. Smoothest. He held a pretty wheel. And I said, well, okay. I wrote that down. But the thing that ended my Autoweek story, and I think he ended it pretty well, the Wood brothers were talking about the funeral, and they got real quiet. They come here, they got a little group, because not many people were invited to the funeral. Of course they were. Petty wasn't. He kind of pissed him off a little bit, I think. Anyway, Eddie and Lynn got together and said, you can say all the words you want to say about Pearson. You can write all you want to write. But he said there were 3 words that were chiseled, etched over his mausoleum place that tells you all you need to know. He said those 3 words, and we looked at them for a long time yesterday. Simply the best.
There you go.
So that's all you got to know.
Yep.
That was Pearson. So my Autoweek story began with Petty saying, if he turned right, I'd go right behind him. And the last sentence was simply the best. All right?
Absolutely.
By the way, Andre said, did you have a good time at Kenley?
Yeah, we had a good time. Jacob ran good. I went down and helped Ricky Derrick and his son Jacob, and he got a second on Friday night, which he should have been a win. They found the winner with a tapered restrictor plate and let him have it, and he got a third on Sunday. So other than the rain all day Saturday, yeah, we had a good time.
Did you see what Rodney said?
Yeah, I'm going to quit every year. Yeah. I'm going to sell them to you for your son, Austin.
Oh, goodness. Well, everybody seemed like we had a good time tonight, and the guests were pretty good. And of course, we always love talking to Charlie. We've got a new person we wound up meeting with, Mianna. So, everybody, if we don't see y'all before the holidays coming up here, y'all have a good holiday season. Otherwise, we'll catch everybody here next week on Let's Talk Racing.
Have a good one.
Good night.